What is going on, everybody? Happy midweek. Welcome in to our latest Trade to Black podcast powered by Dutchie. I'm your host, Shad Dales. We've got a big one here today. The founder of Mission Green, Weldon Angelos. He's got access to perhaps the most important person right now in this cannabis landscape when it comes to reform, and that's President Trump. So we want to get an idea as to where things sit, some of the conversations he's had, and where he feels cannabis reform sits right now in July of 2025. And really this temperature of where this is going to go. Is it hot right now? Is there a lot of rumors that are realistic? Does this feel different this time? As well, Anthony and I are going to touch on the big news. Congressman out of Florida, Brian Mast, becomes co-sponsor of State's 2.0 Act and why that is big, significant news. So again, we're seeing some incremental steps right now in this industry and a lot of attention here in July. So with that, let's welcome an AV here on a Wednesday. Got a good one coming up here today. Lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's good to see the Cannabis Caucus actually doing their job, or at least messaging in the right direction. Dean Titus and Brian Mast both had headlines today, with Dean Titus welcoming Terry Cole for taking the helm of the DEA and saying she was looking forward to working with him on the rescheduling initiative, rescheduling to Schedule 3. And then Brian Mast came on as a co-sponsor for the States Act, which is honestly ideal if it were to pass for cannabis legislation. In the United States. States 2.0 makes a lot of sense.
It's big news, is it not? That's a big endorsement and a co-sponsor right there, getting him involved. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry. I don't think it's not huge, but I mean it's a step in the right direction. The Cannabis Caucus constituents doing what they should be doing, and it's good to get a Republican from Florida to on as a co-sponsor with the States Act. Obviously, we've seen SAFE have a bunch of co-sponsors come onto the bill, and it hasn't gone anywhere yet. So, I mean, it's a nice headline. It's good to see that he's back in the conversation and doing what he should be doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't read really too much into it as far as the States Act, let's say, moving forward. Anything like that.
I hear you. Well, it's a step in the right direction, but yeah, always good to get more co-sponsors involved. That's part of the conversation that we learn when we go to Washington. And it's now been 48 hours since Terrence Cole was indeed invoked as DEA administrator. Very divisive, to say the least, 44-43 when that vote came down. But regardless, he's in, and it'll be curious to see when he makes his first public appearance as far as some of the priorities that he's going to talk about. But that should be telling if indeed rescheduling gets announced. But I know a lot of people in this industry are going to be leaning in, listening very closely once he makes that first appearance and some of the topics that he's going to be addressing.
Yeah, I mean, I think he said he wanted to move it forward. He was going to review the science via the HHS report that the OLC rubber stamped, legitimizing the process that was used for the science, which was one of the points of contention around it. And he's going to move the process forward, whether it's going to be agreeing and rescheduling cannabis or it is keeping cannabis on Schedule 1. Just being frank, I don't think we should be counting on the DEA to do something in our favor. If we get rescheduling, it's going to be a function, I think, of the executive branch telling them, hey, get it done. This is in the best interest of the administration. This is what we want to get done. This is the right thing to do. I think we've learned what the DEA does, to be frank.
Yeah, I hear you. And I know we've talked about this a lot. It's we always feel that it's going to come down to one person and a major decision, and that's from President Trump and who he basically assigns. Go ahead.
And also the vote on Terry Cole was actually 50-47. The 44-43 vote was the cloture vote from Monday.
Correct. Well, as we said, we always talk about this, is where do things sit with President Trump? Because a lot of people do believe it's going to come down to him and his views and whether or not he wants to actually move this forward, and everybody will be, I guess, on the same page. Yeah. And there's not many people that have conversations or direct contact with the president. But our next guest does. And with that, let's welcome in the founder of Mission Green and back to the podcast. And that is Weldon Angelos. Really probably one of the, if not the leading voice in cannabis reform right now. So I really appreciate you logging on here today. How are things? And what do you make of this and some of the, I guess, progress and momentum that you're building right now? Because on behalf of the industry, it's very much appreciated right now. But how are you feeling about it all?
I'm feeling pretty good. Well, first of all, thanks for having me back on. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Things are lining up. I think the DEA confirmation was important. I know they were waiting for that to happen. But there's a lot of movement. And, we recently organized a pretty decent letter to President Trump that had 25 top athletes on there. Mike Tyson led on that letter with me. We got a lot of positive feedback. Just 2 weeks ago, there was an event at the White House that me and Mike Tyson were invited to with the Black Conservative Federation and Story Cannabis and a few other groups. Unfortunately, Tyson couldn't make it. And so I invited Ricky Williams to take his place. So the White House is, meeting with a lot of different people on this. And so they're definitely taking it serious. And I'm confident we're going to see something happen soon.
Interesting.
How is that meeting? Like, how is the conversation, or you've seen the conversation evolve pertaining to cannabis for years now in Washington on the federal level? How, if any, difference is there right now in the conversation around cannabis versus years past?
Well, I think, people actually believe that Trump's going to do what he said he's going to do. A lot of people looked at what Biden was doing as more of a way to get votes. Because Biden's, he was never in favor of cannabis. And so there was a lot of skepticism. Unfortunately, I fell for it and, gave Biden props and went on TMZ and was, encouraged by it. And, all this talk about clemency, which he didn't do. And I do believe President Trump, and there's a lot of momentum right now. And it's a popular issue and he knows it. So I'm definitely confident that he's going to follow through. There's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that I can't talk about.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, but there are a lot of people having conversations from different groups and companies, and everything we've been hearing has been positive.
Yeah, that's promising. And I know, and I want to respect about what you can and can't share. And I think a lot of people right now in the industry think they know where President Trump stands on cannabis, but very few actually talk to him directly, which you do. And I know you've probably been asked this a million questions, but you do feel like this confident that there's going to be some sort of change when it comes to reform with this administration.
Yeah, I think rescheduling is what we're going to get. I'm not confident that Congress can do anything right now. And I think even the White House believes that if we can get it rescheduled, the chances of states or another bill passing increase. More Republicans will come on board. And I think everyone sees rescheduling as the first step. I used to be against rescheduling. I was for descheduling only, but that's not how reform works. It happens incrementally, and we got to get a win. We got to make some kind of progress. And once it's rescheduled, momentum's going to increase for the next step. Maybe a year or two after, we'll have a better chance of getting something like States 2.0 passed.
Yeah, I hear you.
Are the conversations around criminal justice reform just as strong in DC now as it relates to marijuana? Like, are those gears still rolling? And hopefully there gets even more momentum on the backs of, let's say, a rescheduling of cannabis?
Yeah, it's actually not. Unfortunately, the sort of the criminal justice reform aspect has kind of died down over the years. Since Trump passed the First Step Act, that's when we were at an all-time high. But with rescheduling, that conversation is going to come up, and there's going to be more calls for categorical clemency, for expungements. And we're still having these conversations. The support has kind of died down, but I think rescheduling will actually, get that back up and going and give us a better chance of getting the people out of jail who are still in there federally for cannabis, most of whom would not even be in there today. So I do think that that'll increase our chances for sure.
A lot of moving pieces involved here. And what do you think his main motivation to get rescheduling done is? Do you know?
Well, I mean, obviously he made a campaign promise, and he's someone that likes to say he keeps his word. And I think he saw the issue as a popular issue. He supported this last time, the last administration, he supported it. So he understands that this is an important issue. He understands the economic aspect of it. And it's common sense. And there are a lot of people around him that support it. And there's some people around him that don't support it. But he's still going to do it just because, he did make that promise.
Yeah. I hear you.
When you guys were at the White House, were there any, what were the questions coming from, let's say, people from within the government that isn't the obvious around cannabis? Do they have any concerns around the plant? Are they fully aware that rescheduling doesn't necessarily increase accessibility? It just allows for an increase in research potential as well as dropping of 280E. Do they fully understand the task at hand?
So when I went to the White House, I can't speak, other conversations that other people have, but when I went to the White House, it was more of a listening session, but we did provide information on all the aspects that would help them understand why this is important. So I think right now, a lot of the staff are just listening to people, gathering information, and they do have enough information to move forward. I think the president understands, Mike Tyson's been just really, helping with this. He really stepped up, and, Jason Wild's been, behind the scenes helping as well. And getting Tyson out there to explain these issues has been critical. And I think now the president really understands why this needs to happen.
Yeah.
Were you surprised to see some of the larger conservative accounts on Twitter start to talk about rescheduling in unison with Mike a couple weeks back?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of them already supported it. So this just gave them opportunity to voice their opinion. And a lot of people know that President Trump's likely going to do this. And so, a lot of MAGA actually support this because it is a states' rights issue. And there are those Republicans that they're only states' rights when it's something that they like, abortion or something. But when it comes to something they don't like, they're no longer states' rights. And so I think that, hypocrisy is apparent.
Yeah. Well, I would look at this, and your perspective, it's, let's face it, unique. You are building a relationship with Trump and his administration. So who inside Trump's circle do you think is shaping his views on cannabis right now? Because, this isn't a single person decision. And you look at this is a committee that basically is going to be advising him, giving him information. But, outside of you and Mike, who do you think is actually advising him on cannabis right now?
Internally or externally?
Internally.
Yeah. And I mean, some of the stuff I can't speak on, but I know, a lot of people close to him are advising him, and there's people outside that are helping, like Mike, like Kim Rivers, True Leaf, other people that have access to, the chief of staff or others are, having these conversations and helping, but I can't really speak to what's going on internally. But I do know there are some people internally that are against it and, are opposing rescheduling.
Yeah. Has hemp come up at all? Or at any of these conversations? Are people in DC, especially within the White House and those staffers, do they conflate hemp and state legal marijuana to a certain degree, or is it completely just out of the conversation?
There are some people that bring up hemp. I think those conversations should be separated. But yeah, there are people that bring up hemp, and for whatever reason, yeah.
We'll leave it at that. But we had a guest on last week, and as many as 300 to 400 illegal grows in Maine alone. And a lot of it is stemming back to the CCP overseas. And it's an eye opener. And I assume, or I would think, that there's a lot of that is being streamlined to President Trump, and why there needs to be a lot of regulation. So there's lots of questions I can ask, but I know there's only so much that you can share. But again, this feels like it's a positive, and it's heading in the right direction. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people do feel, for a lot of guests that we've had in the last couple of weeks, do feel indeed this feels different this time. But that's the sentiment that we keep hearing. And it's great to see, obviously, you saying the same thing. But with that, it's interesting, right?
Yeah, and what we're trying to do is make it easy for the president. We're trying to build support among Republicans, among people that Trump respects. He loves sports. So, that's why we gathered all these athletes. Right. And right now we're in the process of trying to, set up an Oval Office visit with some of these athletes to be able to sit down and talk to President Trump directly. I know he wasn't at the last meeting at the White House, and, he's busy. So there will be an opportunity to actually speak to him face to face. So yeah, a lot of good things are happening. And I seen someone mention Bruce Lavelle. He's a longtime advisor of President Trump, and he supports rescheduling. And so we're talking to Bruce and folks at Story and Black Conservative Federation about, how do we all work together? Everyone's having conversations with the White House. How do we all come together and unite under one voice and make this as easy as possible? And that's really what we're trying to do. So.
Are there any firm next steps in the process, like another meeting in Washington, another meeting to take place? I know you had the letter, and then the meeting followed that, or is it kind of just a fluid process that you're looking at right now in terms of next steps with the administration?
Yeah, it's very fluid. We may not even have a meeting, and something could happen before that. But we're trying to get this the next meeting done as quickly as possible. And then we have other stuff, events and stuff we're planning for the fall with the White House and with the DOJ. for second chances and other matters.
Okay.
So we're just hoping that, something happens even before then. But yeah, I think the key is just to keep building support, keep getting people out there like Mike, like Ricky Williams, like Champ Bailey. Anybody that's willing to step up and speak out about this issue is really going to help us, get across the finish line.
Do you need any podcasts to go on location to film you in Washington? If so, we're available, Weldon.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
speaking of DOJ, has anybody engaged Bondi, or has any idea what she's thinking in this process, or is she kind of Trump's going to delegate down and it is what it is within his administration?
I know one of the MSOs had met with one of Bondi's chiefs of staff, or her chief of staff. So I had a conversation with the DOJ about this back in June. So they're definitely aware of it. A lot of people are trying to push the DOJ just to, bypass DEA and get this done. And, I think, some people believe President Trump is just going to do an executive order. But, we really don't know how it's going to happen, but we do believe it's going to happen.
Yeah, it is interesting because there was language in the Halt Fentanyl Act that was passed last week that does authorize the DOJ to take over rulemaking from the DEA. I know that was kind of a point of contention under the Biden administration, where you had Ann Milgram didn't want to sign the NPRM and left it to the AG. But it could be interesting. It's going to be exciting to see how Trump gets it done, if and when he gets it done.
Yeah,
we can finally because that's been a hot debate ever since.
We have a few viewers here. One asked, what do you think of the farm bill? If you don't want to answer that, it's completely fine, but I just thought throw your way just to answer one of the viewers who's asking the question right now. Yeah,
that's just really outside of my area. I'm not really versed on him.
Yeah, all good. I got to ask, like, if we get this day that rescheduling is announced, what does it mean for you personally? All this work and effort that you've put in, but that's a pretty monumental moment. And when you look back, I don't know if we'll see the true meaning of it the day of, but when you look back 10, 15 years from now, it's pretty monumental, is it not?
It is. I think this could be bigger than the First Step Act. Not because rescheduling does everything I want it to do. It does nothing that I want it to do, but it's that first step to getting to where we need to get to. Because, we really need to start getting people out of prison and expunging their records. Rescheduling doesn't do that automatically, but it gives the president justification for granting mass clemencies, and it just gets us closer to where we need to be with descheduling.
Yeah, of course. I'm sure you've heard a lot of stories. Is there any stories that come to mind that I think need to be heard as far as people that are in, prison right now that should not be? And I'm sure there's tons of stories that you've shared with the administration, but some of this stuff is just, it's crazy to think that we're in 2025 and this is still happening right now.
Yeah, so one case we recently brought to Alice Johnson and the Trump administration is a guy that was like Luke Scarmazzo, who was the gentleman from Modesto. He was operating legally in Michigan, and the second Jeff Sessions rescinded the Cole memo, they indicted him and gave him 16 years. He has 16 years for following state law, and it was even shown by a state judge that he was following state law. And the government even mentioned on appeal, well, once the co-memo was gone, we could prosecute him, which was kind of messed up. But we're hoping that he gets clemency. He's been down, I think like 8 years for following state law. It's ridiculous. And he has 36 members of Congress that signed a letter for him and Jerry Hayman to receive clemency. So that's a lot of support. I think that's the most support I've ever seen for any of our clients.
Yeah, that's
his name's Danny Trevino, if anyone's wondering. But there's other people. Jerry Hayman was a college football star, and first time marijuana offense, got a mandatory 10 years, ruined his football career. He lives in California where it was legal. So yeah, there's a lot of really, really messed up stories. Another case that came to mind was a guy that was buying user quantity cannabis over a lengthy period, and he got 20 years.
Wow.
So it's there's pretty.
That's
so wild. He was the guy from Michigan that you were mentioning, working under laws that were actually implemented, providing jobs, but yet was given 16 years. And like, what do you think happens to him in this situation if he's getting that kind of support? Is it only a matter of time before he's been given clemency? I would hope.
Yeah, it is. I mean, President Trump said it makes no sense for these people to be in jail. Right. Alice knows that. President Trump knows that. So I do think that, whether it's, in the next few months or, by next year, I do believe he will receive clemency. There's support for doing marijuana cases overall, but I think if rescheduling happens, there's going to be more support for just letting all of the people out, as long as they don't have, violence or we're selling, fentanyl and cannabis. I'm talking about purely cannabis cases where no other charges are in there, unless it's ancillary like money laundering or something. Every one of them should be out of jail right now. They should have their records expunged. They should be normal. They should be pardoned, at least like I did, where I finally got my rights back. So I want to see most of them become whole again.
Around the conversation, so I mean, especially on Twitter, since the rescheduling conversation is now, let's say, been reinvigorated, we're getting a lot of people that are saying rescheduling is not enough, descheduling is the only option. When you're having these conversations, is descheduling the ultimate goal and part of the conversation that's going on now? I mean, I know you mentioned incremental earlier on in the segment, but is descheduling on people's minds that are moving these initiatives forward? Because that's something that I think people need to be more educated on, that rescheduling is not just what we're fighting for and what we want now, and that's going to stay status quo. It's the first step in many.
Yeah, I used to have that mindset. I was like, descheduling only. But the problem is that's just not how DC works. It's not how the process works. If we just want descheduling, then we can sit around here, leave it as Schedule 1, which does nothing, and wait another 5, 6, 7, 10 years. The Democrats had the White House, both houses of Congress, and they didn't deschedule it. So there's no reason to believe that it's just going to happen if we just sit around and wait for it. And I think that's the wrong approach, because people are being harmed as we speak. And if rescheduling even opens the door for these people to get clemency, we need to support it. We need to start chipping away. We can't just sit around and let the perfect be the enemy of good, which is what Cory Booker said when he refused to support the First Step Act, and then realized I can't let perfect be the enemy of good. And the First Step Act was amazing. It ended up helping 20,000 nonviolent, low-level drug offenders get out of jail.
Yeah. Something Anthony's actually been saying for quite some time is incremental steps towards this industry, because we've had this.
It's the way it works.
I remember
it's been institutionally scapegoated for 50 years now. There's no way we're going to get everything we want all at once, especially from a machine like Washington.
Yeah.
No, not happening.
I remember that event you and I were at, Anthony, a couple years ago, and everyone was asking, how do we get, rescheduling, descheduling, and banking all in one? And I'm just like, it's not going to happen.
That's why anyone now that hits any of the posts that I see where they're like, oh, rescheduling is not enough, descheduling is the only option. Like, tell me your plan. What is your plan?
We know this.
Reschedule. Yeah. Like, we want descheduling. Give me your plan as to how you expect to get that done.
Yeah.
Because I haven't heard any plan from anyone that is the least bit realistic.
Yeah.
To get that done.
Even Biden didn't support descheduling. And so, it's just not going to happen. I think people don't understand politics. They don't understand how DC works. This is a first step to get there. We're not getting there without this, because this is going to allow other Republicans to start supporting descheduling, and States Act may be the next step to get to descheduling, deschedule on the state level. And then, in the future, hopefully we'll even get more reform. It's done incrementally.
Some of the biggest advances you make in life is through trial and error. And if you had to, I know this is a pretty broad question, but when you look at the visits that you've made to Washington, what do you think is the biggest learning lesson you've learned over all this time?
I mean, I think that's it. Like, thinking that we can get everything right up front. Like when we were trying to push for a criminal justice reform bill, I was of that mindset. Like, this is not enough. I want everything. And then we end up losing, and we ended up with something worse than what we could have had. And so, not understanding the way DC works, I was one of the people typing on there, descheduling or nothing, full criminal justice reform or nothing. It's just not how DC works. Yeah. And I wish I would have learned that earlier on, and been more prepared for how DC does work. And maybe we would have gotten more. But, this is how it works. Let's get a win, do a victory lap, and let's push for the next step.
How much, look, I don't want to exclude any names, but one of the main people, I got a chance to speak to him last month in Germany, was Mike Tyson, along with his president, Ryan Burke, and great guys, to say the least. But how much, has it been great, building more and more of a closer relationship with them for one common goal, and what it's meant, I think, for the cannabis industry to see people like that now involved?
Yeah, it's been amazing. met Mike after I was pardoned. I think I got a FaceTime congratulating me for my pardon. We have some mutual friends, in the music industry, even going back into the 90s. And, we have a mutual friend who's incarcerated that we're both trying to get out. And, after that phone call, me and Mike met up, I think it was in 2021, and recorded a video urging Biden to grant clemency. We released it in 2023. Biden ignored it. And, now with Jason Wild and others pushing Tyson to go the next step, it's been great. And, Tyson is really good friends with President Trump. So President Trump loves him. And we've explained that to Mike, to Jason. Let's get Mike out there pushing for this.
It's great.
And he's helped a lot. Mike's done a lot. And there are other people, I can't name everyone, but there's a lot of people that are really helping make this process go through.
So incremental steps. There's a couple of tidbits that I, just kind of listened to you, but obviously this is something you hope gets done sooner rather than later. I'm not going to ask you timeline because no one knows, and I'm not going to put you to that situation, but things are progressing well is the main takeaway here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with the DEA confirmation, I think that was a positive step.
Yeah.
Even if President Trump just puts out an executive order, however he's going to do it, let's get it done and let's, celebrate and start working on, the next step.
Speaking of, actually, Judge John Mulrooney is set to retire on August 1st, who's the chief administrative law judge who's hearing the case right now on S3. So it should be interesting to see how that comes into the fold, because apparently he's saying that now there's no judge to hear the proceedings in rescheduling. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. We'll leave it at that. Listen, on behalf of the industry, great work, and keep up the great work. And, once we get that announcement, hopefully we do, we'll make sure, and hopefully you can find time for to come back on and we can talk about a big win. But I know it's these dog days of summer, but it's well beyond that. It's been years in the making that you put in a lot of work, and wish you the best of luck. But really appreciate you checking in here today and give us an update on what you think could happen and how things are progressing, whether it's this summer, this fall, but it all looks like things are heading in the right direction, which is great.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thanks, Weldon. Appreciate your time. All right. So I was interested.
Mulrooney retiring is interesting. I don't think we get back to the ALJ either way.
No, I don't either.
If Trump acts, but I got to call Shane and get the scoop on how that would actually work, because I don't know enough about the legalese to what the implications are about a judge retiring in an active hearing. So we shall see.
I know this seems so complicated for people right now, and there are no for sure answers, but I'm hopeful, and this is why there needs to be some sort of communication and direction from Washington, as we keep saying, because if there's an executive order, any kind of announcement about rescheduling, a lot of this stuff instantly makes sense. And yeah, this is only going to, the plot thickens with the retirement for a judge that's looking at a hearing to possibly reschedule cannabis. And I can understand why a lot of people are now wondering what's next. And we don't know those answers, but one thing that could answer a lot of these questions is a ruling on rescheduling, and all this stuff just goes away instantly. So I'm sure there'll be lawsuits after that, but who cares at this point? We need incremental steps, is what Weldon said. What was your big takeaway from that conversation?
It's thorough. It's thorough. Obviously appreciate everything that Weldon does, especially on the criminal justice reform front. Wish there was more momentum picking up in regards to that versus it stagnating a little bit. But the pieces are on the board. We just need to bring something home.
Let's hope that happens. But he did mention something about I'll be disappointed if it's not happened by the fall, I think is what his words, or something along those lines. But again, I'm not going to say, I know everybody wants to know what the timelines are going to be, but no one knows at this point. And no
one knows, and no one wants to guess.
Yeah. Well, got to have the right tools in this industry. And when your tools work together, your dispensary runs better. And Dutchie unifies point of sale, e-commerce, loyalty, marketing, and payments into one connected system, simplifying operations and delivering a seamless customer experience. Visit business.dutchie.com to learn more. Those are some of our live reads we're now implementing into our title sponsorship with Dutchie.
And that is how you do a live read in, ladies and gentlemen.
Do you like that?
Yeah, it was good. It's smooth.
It's not bad.
We got people in the chat using Dutchie right now, actually.
I saw that, which made me realize now is the perfect time. I know, Brian Dombrowski, you're asking some good questions. This is not the right guest. It's about clemency and expungement.
I mean, also, for God's sakes, Brian, I mean, I know that you're somewhat of a professional. I mean, there's certain disclosure that needs to go on around a conversation. Weldon's not going to come on and tell us everything that's going on behind the scenes regarding cannabis rescheduling. I mean, don't think we could ask him all the hard questions he wants. He's going to sit there and plead the fifth. I would, you would, anybody would.
Yeah.
This is a delicate process. He's got the insight into exactly what's going on. That doesn't need to necessarily be made public.
Yeah. And if you do push that hard, I get it, Brian. And I can understand where you're coming from because that's the perception left behind. And there are questions that I do want to ask, but I can 100% tell you this interview or some of these guests that we're getting access to will be one and done. And that doesn't really put us in a good situation right now as we start to grow and build this community more and more. We want to have access to people that are going to have helpful information. So read between the lines. And, after this is done, I encourage all the viewers that are watching it now to listen to it again and maybe 3 times and really start to understand why there's a lot of confidence building, the powers to be that are connected with the Trump administration and how we're going to see change. I think that is something that people need to be mindful of. When that happens, I think it's going to be sooner rather than later. I don't know whether it happens this month, August, September, but he said, fall seems like a realistic timeline. Weldon didn't say that, but that could be the case. And, all signs point in a great direction as we keep hearing more and more that this feels different this time. And Weldon has spoken with the Biden administration. He has spoken with the Trump administration. He's a man by his word, and he's stood behind this from day one. So with that, I can't see why he wouldn't back this up and continue on because, everything we're seeing with his administration in the first 6 months is following through with things that he promised during the campaign trail. So leave it at that.
Yeah.
Is that it? Just one word response?
I mean, I don't want to get negative, but there were some things on the campaign trail that he promised they didn't follow through on. So I don't want to get caught up there.
All right. Is there anything else we want to discuss here today? I just want to do one and done here today.
It was a relatively quiet day. I mean, I haven't been paying too much attention to Texas. I know that there was some pivotal stuff that happened there. They might be worse off than they were before. I mean, SB5 looks pretty like a nuclear bomb would go off in Texas regarding hemp. It's great. So by the way, the NCIA sent a letter to Terry Cole before he even got into his office. It's probably sitting there waiting for him.
Yeah.
Waiting for him, urging him on rescheduling.
Yeah.
I'm not, Jake. We're not going there. I promise you.
Wanted to. Yeah, I was reading some of the notes that took place in that first session meeting in Texas, but man, that looks very, very divided right now.
So I talked to Tom about this yesterday briefly. Keep in mind that these SB5 passed the Senate, which Dan Patrick has an immense amount of power in, and the House is where these bills have went to die numerous times in Texas. So I mean, don't expect SB5 to pass through into law just because it's out of the Senate. It should get torched in the House.
Well, it was pretty decisive based on that early vote, which was what's it called again? If I remember correctly, I'm just looking at it now. Charles Perry is guns blazing right now in terms of prohibition, in terms of hemp prohibition in the state of Texas. For sure. Some pretty crazy accusations. Our good friend over at Cultivated Media, Jeremy Burke, had some good tweets actually out.
Yeah, he was talking about 80% THC flower. That doesn't
80%.
exist.
Yeah.
Literally doesn't exist.
The new meth.
Maybe you can get somewhere if you're taking flower, spraying it with D8 and a ton of other crap. But actual just cannabis flower, I mean, 80% THC is not even in the realm of possibility. Yeah, see, Brian just agreed with me. See, we can agree on things.
There we go. Ty Grower, great to hear that you liked the global markets video that I put out earlier today in the event that if rescheduling is announced, how America could be the leading research country in the world and how that would have influence on Europe and even in places like Australia, New Zealand, and Asia. And we did highlight Thailand. So I appreciate the feedback based off of that. And if you guys want to get a chance to see that, make sure to check out the YouTube channel afterwards and check out our new playlist, Cannabis in 5. You guys like that? I think we're getting a lot of positive feedback. It's straight to the point. There's some good clips that, we just basically research and we give that to you in 3 to 5 minutes through video content. So the views are actually showing, the metrics are showing that they're doing very, very well. So appreciate everybody, logging on and watching a lot of that stuff because we're doing well as far as audience and reach wise, growing a lot. And I can only hope, fingers crossed, that we get rescheduling because that'll be a big moment for the overall industry. We're getting some earnings dates too next month. Jushi announced, Merrimet announced. Any other dates that we're seeing as far as?
We will have Canopy Growth and TerraSend on back to back. I think Monday the 11th, if I'm not mistaken. And then the rest of them are waiting to hear back from.
Yes.
We got on the docket.
Brady comes out. Well, nope. I'm going to stop right there. I started reading comments. I'll avoid that one.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get the regulars on. I've already reached out to Camilo and Boris. You could take the interview with True Leave, and then we can have, I think, Ascend and Dutchie on at some point, and we'll roll out the earnings.
You're hilarious. Wasn't that crazy, that story that he shared about that guy from Michigan, Weldon? That is wild.
Yeah.
When he rescinded the Cole memo, and now he's 8 years in. That's wild. It's horrible.
It's bad.
Yeah. So, we'll have, guess what? On Friday, we're going to have Big Mike from Advanced Nutrients back on. And love talking to Big Mike because he's one of the original OGs of the industry. He's got a lot of great stories. We're going to talk to him about that raid from a couple of weeks ago. Was that 2 weeks ago? Excuse me. When
talking about Glasshouse.
Talk a little bit about that. Some of the stuff that he's seeing in California. We'll get his take on it. And then he actually had some meetings after Mary Jane and talked about just the upside potential in Germany, just as far as the growth and the popularity. Get some takeaways from him, from Mary Jane, and what he's seeing in the European market. And then, most importantly, we'll get him to talk about rescheduling because I know he's had some influential lobbyists. And
Gene Simmons died?
No, he didn't. He did?
No way.
Ozzy Osbourne died.
Yeah, I know that. So did Roy Black.
Did he pass away?
Nah.
Teflon Ron.
The only thing, it's fake news. Teflon Ron is fake news. By the way, Chris, Differ Brady, Anthony Caniglia will be on with us next Wednesday at 4.
Next at 4. Troll. Did you ever listen to any Ozzy Osbourne music?
Plenty. I think it was in Tony Hawk 2 that there was a lot of there was a couple Ozzy Osbourne songs on that track.
Gene is fine. Thank you. I did not realize the accident that he had in the early 2000s and had 2 or 3 different spinal surgeries, and he regretted doing that. But my God, his last few years, he battled Parkinson and chronic pain. I cannot imagine. But
Sharon's great too.
Yeah, for sure. I know a lot of friends that are close friends with Gene Simmons, and one of the smartest marketing people that you'll ever cross. He actually got involved in the cannabis space in the early days. And
Gene Simmons was with Invictus.
Yes, he made a lot of money
rolling around. Rolling around conferences with Invictus. That was ridiculous. He was the front marketing man.
Made a lot of money too. Peaceful. Don't forget, as we're looking at, thank you for the heads up, Guap. And don't look now, but at Thai Life Sciences, it is moving. And, if you want to look at the psychedelic space, as we talk about ETFs and MSOS and cannabis, likewise, advisor shares PSIL, which trades in the New York Exchange ARCA. And, we're starting to see a lot of momentum building within the psychedelic space. And Thai Life Sciences has moved quite nicely over the last 30 days, and especially again this week. But
moved nicely today. It was down 6%, then it finished up 10%. 15% swing in intraday is nothing. something to write home about.
Yeah. Invictus, laugh out
And
loud.
yes, Lance, in Invictus, I've been around this industry for that long.
Long time. Brian Dabrowski sent me an attachment. What is the attachment? All right. What am I looking at here, Brian? Anyway, I know I'm trying to drag this out, but if anybody has any questions, they want to reach out to us, how they're feeling about the space here in July, we can make this conversation open up for the next 3 to 4 minutes. Anything you want to ask us, feel free. Let us know. Any topics on your mind, any concerns, any questions, let us know. And we'll give our opinion and some of the things that we've learned from some of our network and conversations we have on a daily basis. But yeah, do feel good about the conversation that we had with Weldon. And it's nice to get access, as I said, to people that are having direct contact. It's not like, oh, I'm hearing this and this. It's like direct contact on the live stream with people that are speaking directly with the Trump administration. And in this case, with President Trump as well. And there's nothing better to get a firsthand feedback on what they're seeing and hearing. And
so, Mitch, great question. MSOS is not buying any stocks in receivership. Air is not in receivership. Air is undergoing a restructuring process. Air could be in receivership down the road if they default and go into the process. But with all due respect, the tweet that everybody saw this morning that was questioning that was not factually accurate. None of the stocks that they purchased are in receivership. Do some of the stocks, would I buy them? No. Would I recommend anybody else buy them? No. But they're not in receivership. They're restructuring going on. I know that was a big issue this morning, and I mean, some of them are tiny buys that Dan had explained last week. I think Dan Aarons was on with us.
Yep.
And when there's an inflow, that money is dispersed into the holdings. It's not Dan actively managing it. That just goes.
Right.
It just gets purchased into the holdings of the ETF. That's not Dan actively managing. Should some of those holdings in the ETF be removed? Yeah, potentially. I don't agree with all of the companies that are in it. Do I own it still? Yeah. But I mean, I do think that there's a genuine critique on some of the holdings of the ETF.
All right. So this is a full list of teacup.
And Air is halted on the Canadian side as well. It's only trading on the US side, and the volume is peanuts.
So, okay, I'm looking at this list, Brian. How many applicants are there on this list? I'm seeing 3 pages. I'll send this to you guys too, Anthony. But there's a long list of applicants for the teacup program in Texas he just sent me.
There's probably tons right now. But thanks for sending that, Brian. Appreciate it. And some notable names that we would know. Actually, I'm just going to keep that discreet right now because I don't know if that's is that public information? I assume it is. 132 applicants for the teacup program, but they need smokable flower.
Right.
And they need to diversify the products. If Texas wants to have a valid medical program, they need to do what Florida did.
132.
Copy the medical program that we have here.
Yeah.
Or just do the right thing and turn the hemp industry into an adult use cannabis industry and use common sense and just regulate it all and be on their way and just stop arguing about it.
You think that's going to happen?
No.
I don't know that either.
Not at all. There's no way it happens.
No.
But that would make sense.
It would, but yeah. I think the first thing that's got to happen is, so when will this all be finalized? This has a vote that goes what, to the 3rd week of August, if I'm correct?
What will be finalized? The special session? I think the special session's 2 weeks. I could be wrong on that though.
I read something that goes into like mid-August, but
2 weeks from the 21st. You'd be looking at 1st week of August. I'm not sure as per the timing. Yeah. I know it's not going to be a months long process. And yeah, Chris, that has nothing to do with HIPAA.
Yeah. Trade to Black, powered by Dutchie, who is our official title sponsor of the Trade to Black podcast. And as I said earlier, for more information, if anybody within the actual industry itself wants to learn more about to better run your dispensary, make sure to visit business.dutchie.com to learn more.
And I know, Cole, I know you've asked that twice, but I mean, if I was a cannabis company or a hemp company in the state of Texas and Governor Abbott said, hey, you're allowed to make 3 milligram caps, you're allowed to make 3 milligram doses, or I'm going to put you out of business, I would sit there and make 3 milligram doses versus an outright ban.
TDR merch, Justin or Chad, where you live, buddy?
You are going to cause a shitstorm right now.
I know I am. So we're waiting for more swag to order in, but we're trying to get this membership wall up. And with that, we're going to have all kinds of swag that you can buy on this membership wall that we're basically putting the final touches on. But yeah, we're going to have certain pieces that you'll be able to see and weekly recaps. We're trying to get in some analysts as well during this membership wall that you'll have access to. So that's kind of the angle as to where the business is heading. It'll be very affordable on a monthly basis. But again, as we start to gear up for the next step in the industry, just want to give everybody the heads up that we're working on that and getting the final touches on it. So anyway, that's pretty much it for today. Like I said, Big Mike is coming on Friday, and we will we'll be on with some good questions and some good conversations with him. But we're hoping to get out to California to see him too. But in the meantime, good interview. Let us know what your main takeaway was here today with Weldon and what you thought of the interview. Leave your comments below. And like I said, we'll see you back here Friday at 11 a.m. with Big Mike. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, I liked that one, didn't you? Let us know by leaving your comments below and stay connected with us here at the Trade to Black podcast. We appreciate you logging on here today and learning more information about where this industry is headed. If you have time, make sure to like, subscribe, and smash on that bell for all notifications and keep the conversation going by leaving some comments below. We always love to get your feedback. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks again for watching our latest Trade to Black podcast. All right, I'm going to record that evergreen now.